I've done probably a dozen large, scale bankruptcies over my career, including Enron, of course. Every one of those entities had some financial problem or another. They have some characteristics that are in common. This one is unusual, and it's unusual in the sense that literally, there's no record keeping whatsoever. It's in the absence of record keeping. Employees would communicate, invoicing and expenses on Slack, which is essentially a way of communicating for chat rooms. They use QuickBooks, a multi-billion-dollar company using QuickBooks. QuickBooks. Nothing against QuickBooks, very nice tool. It's not for a multi-billion-dollar company. There's no independent board. Right? We had one person really controlling this. No independent board. That's highly unusual in a size company this is. And it's made all more complex because we're not dealing with widgets or something that's tangible. We're dealing with crypto, and the technological issues are made worse when you're dealing with an asset such as crypto. Enron was really a different company. Crimes that were committed there were highly orchestrated financial machinations by highly sophisticated people to keep transactions off balance sheets. This is really old-fashioned embezzlement. This is just taking money from customers and using it for your own purpose. Not sophisticated at all. Sophisticated perhaps in the way they were able to sort of hide it from people.
What time was Mr. Bankman-Fried arrested yesterday?
I believe it was in the early evening hours after 4 o'clock. So
I believe it was
7 o'clock, perhaps.
It was in the evening after that filing.
6, 7 o'clock, yes.
I would like to submit to the record the statement from the Attorney General of the Bahamas issued yesterday on the arrest of Mr. Samuel Bankman-Fried. And after submitting that to the record, I would like to note that in this statement, they stated at such time as a formal request for extradition is made, presumably by the Southern District of New York, but they do not state when that request for extradition was made. Do you believe that information is important for us to understand in order to piece together a timeline, Mr. Wright?
Yes, sir. I certainly don't have a full timeline, and that's something that we look forward to learning.
The circumstances that led to FTX's collapse, those circumstances still exist in the crypto space, and can other companies collapse in a similar set of circumstances?
Well, certainly we've ceased trading, so it won't happen at our company. Could it happen at other companies? I can't speak to them because I don't know how each of these companies are operated. Obviously, our company operated in a very distinct way that led to losses, but I think every company is different.
My first question I would like to ask all four of you, and please give as close to a yes or no answer as you can. The world is troubled by the extent of the fraud and misconduct at FTX. We all agree on that. Too many people have lost money they thought was safe. Some have suggested that what we see at FTX was unique, a one-off caused by one immoral fraudster rather than something more widespread and systemic. So starting with you, Professor Allen, does this kind of carelessness, misconduct, or worse exist at other crypto firms?
Yes.
Mr. O'Leary?
Yes, the unregulated crypto firms.
Ms. Schultz?
Most likely.
Schenken?
It's endemic.
So let me ask you directly. You were an investor in FTX, and I know you've spoken frequently with Sam Bankman-Fried over an extended period of time. Why do you believe FTX failed?
I have an opinion. I don't have the records. Here it is. After my accounts were stripped of all of their assets and all of the accounting and trade information, I couldn't get answers from any of the executives in the firm, so I simply called Sam Bankman-Fried and said, "Where is the money, Sam?" He said he had been refused access to the servers. He no longer knew. I said, "Okay, let's step back. This is a simple case in my mind of where did the money go?" And I said, "Sam, walk me back 24 months. Tell me the use of proceeds of the assets of your company. Where did you spend it?" And then he told me about a transaction that occurred over the last 24 months, the repurchase of his shares from Binance, his competitor. I didn't know this at the time, but at some point, CZ or Binance, who runs Binance, purchased 20% ownership in Sam Bankman-Fried's firm for seed stock. And then, over time, and I asked him, what would compel you to spend $2 billion was the number he was giving me at that time. Later, in a subsequent conversation, about 24 hours later, he told me it could have been as much as $3 billion to buy back the shares from CZ. I asked him, what would compel you to do that? Why wouldn't you keep your assets on your balance sheet? And why would you offer this to just one shareholder? He said, because every time we went to get licensed in different jurisdictions, because you must understand the prize of crypto is to get regulated. For all the talk we say about Bitcoin and everything else, no institutions own this. I work for the sovereign wealth and pension plans. They don't touch this stuff because it's unregulated. Between these two, let's call them frenemies, because they obviously were potentially the two largest shareholders in the firm, they had a disagreement. They had a falling apart. Apparently, according to Sam Bankman-Fried, CZ would not comply with the regulator's request in these different geographies, these different jurisdictions, to provide the data that would clear them for a license. He withheld it, according to Sam Bankman-Fried. The only option the management and Sam Bankman-Fried had was to buy him out at an extraordinary valuation of close to $32 billion, less apparently a 15% discount. That stripped the balance sheet of assets. You ask me why it went bankrupt? Go to the last week. All of a sudden, in social media, CZ is asking for another $500 million. He wants to do a block trade of FTT, or the proprietary token of FTX. Wants it converted back to fiat. Why would you put that out there? You know it's going to push down the pressure. It's going to push down the value of that coin dramatically, and that's exactly what happened. Every trader knows that if you have a large block trade, you go negotiate a clearing price with other buyers and you do the transaction. In my view, my personal opinion, these two behemoths that own the unregulated market together and grew these incredible businesses in terms of growth were at war with each other. And one put the other out of business intentionally. Now, maybe there's nothing wrong with that. Maybe there's nothing wrong with love and war. But Binance is a massive, unregulated global monopoly now.
So, Mr. O'Leary, I know that you are a big supporter of crypto, even after you lost $10 million in FTX's collapse. But you are an experienced investor. So let me ask you, do you believe that the potential benefits of crypto are so promising that we should accept weaker anti-money laundering rules and weaker compliance from crypto firms than we require from banks, from brokers, and from Western Union?
No, I think we should apply the same regulatory structure that we apply to existing trading of stocks and bonds on exchanges tied to broker-dealers. That is not complicated. It's already been implemented in other countries. And so, and I take issue, Senator, with your concept that it makes it easier to do money laundering. Currencies have been used for drug trafficking since the 60s in the American dollar, when it was thrown out of a Piper aircraft in a duffel bag. The American dollar is also used by bad actors all the time.
Mr. O'Leary, I appreciate your point that everyone tries to engage in money laundering. That's what terrorists do. That's what drug dealers do. And that's what states like Iran and North Korea have done. The only point I'm trying to make is, should the same rules against money laundering apply to crypto in the way that they apply to banks, to stockbrokers, to credit card companies, to Western Union? And I think your answer to that was yes. Is that right?
No.
Mr. O'Leary, you have 30 seconds. Keep your answer short.
It's not yes. I'm just saying, if you know your client rules on both sides of the transaction and use a crypto such as USDC that is regulated, you solve this problem, Senator, overnight.
To everyone here, thank you. This obviously is something we have been working on for a period of time here, and really appreciate the insight you all bring. I do want to follow up on my colleague, Senator Van Hollen's line of questioning with Professor Allen, I want to ask the rest of you. Clearly, she's supporting banning it. If we don't ban it, how do we regulate it? She put forth a proposal, which is isolate it from the banking system and then define it as a security. Does anybody disagree with that or have any other ideas about how it would be regulated? Mr. O'Leary.
The concept of passing legislation that would ban banks from integrating cryptocurrencies and crypto technology, if that were to happen as an investor, I would short every American bank stock because it would make it the most uncompetitive financial services sector in the world. The innovation that is coming forward, once regulated, is going to be profound in terms of how it changes the cost, the efficiency, the auditability, the productivity of the banking sector. Just look at things as simple as ACH transfers, how archaic they are. Look at the Fed wire.
So let me just stop you there. I only have so much time. So you do not agree with isolating it from the banking system?
That's insanity.
Okay, Ms. Schultz?
No, I also don't agree with isolating it from the banking system. I do think that if I were queen for a day to regulate, I would ask Congress to make some clear lines here with respect to what is and is not a security. And I think a lot of crypto tokens do fall under the category of security, but it's not always clear. I also would ask Congress to draw clear lines as to which market regulator handles secondary trading, giving the commodities segments to the CFTC and the securities segments to the SEC. That should put good guardrails in place in order to apply similar risk frameworks to similar risks.
Thank you. Mr. Shankman.
If we allow cryptocurrency to infect our banking system, we will be back here.
Thank you.
We will be back here, not in a good way.